Hello and welcome to the Fishing Guide Podcast. I'm your host, Brad Wiegmann. Once again, we have Lance Hughey on the show.
Hey.
He's back because so many people wanted to visit, wanted more information, how he catches his fish, because he's always in there. He's always got his big rod. He's always got his net. He's always got 4 big fish hanging from his fingers.
That's right.
So you're officially Beaver Lake Crappie guide. Is that right?
Yeah, we
deposited the check.
Yeah. Got that all going. So started up first of the year, and guy called me, did the first weekend of January, and it was a good trip. Had fun. Just steady fishing. It was got him a limit, and I think we had a couple more. But yeah, it was good fishing. We had a good time, and I was kind of nervous at first, and I was like, man, I hope they bite. But once it got settled in, it was good. So I had a good time, and got another one this week. So
fishing's fishing.
Yeah,
so
just have fun with it. You know. Yeah.
I mean, you do have 16 minnows out there.
Yeah, I know.
Working for
I
you.
got 16.
Some of us only got like one jig head, and we're throwing out there. And so the odds are against us. The odds are in your favor.
Yeah, I got a buffet out there for them.
That's right. So let's talk a little bit about your rig. Some of the people have seen the show. They've seen some of your stuff that we've posted on PICO Lures on their site, because you're making some of your pre-made rigs with their terminal tackle, the Vanguard stuff. You basically have a spider rig set up and 8 rods, right? Mm-hmm. So how does that look? Tell us.
I mean, it's fanned out. I mean, I fan them out, and it's just, they're 16-foot poles, and I'm just slowly pushing about 0.2, 0.3 this time of year. I mean, there's 8-pound test line on the main reel,
right?
And then the rig is a 10-pound,
right?
And then it's just a half ounce. They're half-ounce weights. The rig is total,
right? The
rig, and then I use the size 2 Aberdeen hooks that they have,
right? And
then sometimes I'll go to a 1/16 ounce. The jig heads on some with 2 with the basic crappie Minnow.
I saw these, yeah.
And then tip it with the Minnow. Everything's with the Minnow. And I try to shoot for just a medium sized Minnow, not none of those big fat ones.
What do you think? Why do you think crappie? Is it just a Beaver Lake thing that they like that smaller size? Because you go to Grenada and you can use a brooder minnow down there. You can use a trout. 6-inch trout down there. I don't 4-pound crappie.
I don't know. I think it's that there's just so much plentiful shad, and maybe they just not as hungry.
Right.
I don't know. It's just I've always shoot for a smaller minnow. They inhale it in. They don't swim with it more. They seem to be more, since I've learned this with scope. I've changed the minnow size out, and I'm just like, well, that's working. It's a smaller minnow. I remember like in 2020 where everybody was fishing, so it was like you didn't have much minnow size. I mean, you didn't have much. Minnows were real small. Right. That's kind of when it started kicking in. I call them anorexic minnows. They were like real skinny, like more like a fathead minnow, I guess, and they were just real skinny minnow. And that's when it clicked in. I started catching more fish with those, and I was just like, well, I'm gonna start using smaller minnows. The bigger, because I would always try and grab a bigger minnow, bigger fish. Those would just get your white bass. It seems like now, but yeah, I'm more of a medium size to 1.5 inch, 2-inch minnow.
How is the shad population this year on Beaver?
It's good. I mean, it's just everywhere. I mean, Friendship was full of them.
Right.
I mean, I'm not seeing as much. I guess. Yeah, we're seeing them, but a friend of mine, I gave him the fish, Peyton. I gave him the fish like a couple weeks ago, and he was filleting them out, and he had brim in them.
Wow.
Yeah, I don't know how big. You can't justify the picture, but I think the brim were at least a palm-sized brim.
That's pretty good size.
And I didn't. These fish I cleaned last week, they didn't have brim in them. They just had shad.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's they're full. So, but I think the shad population's good. I don't think that freeze did much to them.
Yeah, and the freeze didn't go clear across the lake, so it was just on the edge.
It was just kind of
a little ways
south end of the lake. So I don't. Yeah. Now we're staying mid-40s. It's not really cold enough for them to do the death twitch. So I don't.
What happens if the shad start dying? How are you going to approach that? Things change.
Yeah, it does. You know, I think it gets tougher. I believe it gets tougher for a little while, and then it just turns on. They get mad. I mean, I don't know. It just seemed like that's how it was a couple of years, like that year last year,
right? When
it froze and it got real thick and it was like frozen for 2 weeks. It seemed like it was pretty tough there for a couple of weeks. I mean, you'd still catch a limit, but it was a grind. But then all of a sudden, it just took off. I don't know if they just finally ate them all.
Right.
I don't know.
The dying ones.
Yeah. I don't know. But it usually it'll take off.
And you're still looking at feeder creeks. You're still focused inside inside the feeder creeks. You haven't ventured out into the main lake.
Yeah, I try to stay out of the main lake. I hate wind. I hate waves.
Right.
I hate boat traffic.
Right.
I try to stay sheltered. You know, so I've done it that way for, I mean, I don't know, past 8-10 years. I've just always gone in feeder creeks this time of year.
Right.
And it's just you get shelter from the wind, and there's fish there, and there's lots of fish there.
Lots.
So, and I don't really stay out in the main river. So, and unless until the summer, until after the spawn.
Right.
But yeah, it's just the main reason is just get out of the wind and stay sheltered from boat traffic and waves. Because I mean, you just get your poles a bouncing, you're not going to catch a fish. I mean, it's just if you got constant boat traffic coming, like today, there's a bunch of boat traffic. I bet.
Right.
Because it's a nice day. I'm like, is these people not work? So,
well, we should be fishing. But,
I know we should be drowning some minnows today. It's almost 70 degrees out there.
Yeah, it's pretty warm. There was a guy out there yesterday had shorts on.
Oh, crazy!
I was like, stay out here till about 5 o'clock.
Yeah, yeah.
But, he might be one of those guys that wear shorts even when it's cold. You know, there's just some people like that.
Mm-hmm.
So what? So the spawn. So what? When do you leave the feeder creek? You said after the spawn.
After the spawn, usually.
I mean,
mid-May. Once I start seeing the bite, you know, 1st of May. You know,
wow.
Also it just depends on what part of the lake you're at. So I mean, say like south end of the lake, the creek's down here. Usually I'll start moving back up to Big Hickory area, and that usually starts. But usually it's just the bite starts to slow, and in the creek arm. So then I know to start moving to the main lake.
Do you fish in Big Hickory and some of
I'll
those
fish up Big Hickory. It just matters what time of year. I mean, maybe it's usually like May, March. I mean, also if you get blown out, I mean, I'm going to Hickory. It just seems like it doesn't get as dirty as a river or as trash, and I mean, it's fishable water. I mean, that's how it was last year. We fished Hickory for about like 3 weeks in a row, and then finally it was safe to navigate up the rivers. And then went up the rivers, and it was on.
Right.
So it was on till end of July.
And when the water gets stained, do the crappie come up?
Oh yeah,
they start coming up. They don't go to the bottom.
They don't go to the bottom. They'll stay high. I mean, I like the dirty water when they. I mean, I've caught them, 20 foot of water just underneath the surface. Then when it's real muddy, I mean, if they're up there sunning. I mean, you know how like you got your minnow rig and you got the swivel. Yeah. I mean, it's just like one pull. It's underneath the surface and the fish. And I mean, it's just that was for a live scope. I mean, I figured that out. And it's just you see that flash. That's what's cool. You see that flash. You see that fish coming. And that pole goes down, and you got you just got this much line out. So you're like having to let all that line out to swing them in. So it's just like. It's a different kind. You won't be on the pole quick, and try to get them in quick because you got to let all that line out to get them close to swing them in.
So you're using which B&M poles you using?
It's right now I'm still using the buck graphite jig pole. They're 16 foot. It's I mean I mostly stay with a 1/2 ounce rig with those. Okay. I think they set up just perfect for that. If I get real shallow, say like 5-6 foot of water, and if it's not very windy, if it's just basically glass, I'll step down to a 1/4 because I'm just going to really crawl and basically park.
Right.
But it just
you think you're parking? I've been with you. You think you're parking and the fish are coming to you, or do you?
Sometimes I think I sit back. I get made.
We're talking 0.1.
Yeah, 0.1, 0.2, 0.3. I mean, it takes me forever to cover water. I mean, that time you went with me, I remember you were sitting there saying, you're turning around, he's like, we've only gone this far.
We did too. We went a whole 20 foot.
It's like, I don't think we've covered 50 yards yet. I'm like,
I think pretty sure if anybody drove by us and they came back, they probably thought those two guys have not moved.
Yeah.
They would have thought we power poled down.
It's just, I cover it, and I'm constantly fanning, the trolling motor. And I mean, it's just, I feel like most of the time I let the fish come to me. I don't really go to them. I feel like I will spook them more going to them with my trolling motor.
And so are you fishing brush or cover in those? I
got some waypoints marked in areas, and I'll go towards the waypoint and catch fish on that. But on the way to that waypoint, I might steer off because I'll see fish out just swimming and roaming.
Right.
And but I never really fish cover. I've always stayed out in open water. I've always had the mentality to avoid it because I was going to get hung up. So,
right.
I mean, back when I'd have it on my old Helix I had at the time. I had it marked. Well, don't go with that because that's going to get you hung up. Go around it. But now with live scope, I can dial in how deep it is and how I need to go. And there's fish on it. We're going to go through it. I'll let the pole get hung up. I'm going to catch a fish off of it.
Right.
But most time it's always like what people do now, chasing roamers. I guess I can call it. That's what I've been doing.
Right.
For 10 years, just chasing roamers and just suspended fish, and you'll catch bigger fish that way, I believe, than sitting on a brush pile.
So what do you have your, I know you have a Garmin, the live scope.
Yeah.
What do you have that set at for a range?
I have it, I still have it about 30, 35. 30? I don't do 35. Very far out there. I mean, I just like a clear picture. I mean, if it's really far out there, it's hard. I got to see my baits clear. If it's really far out there, your bait's, itty bitty small, and it's just so far, more like I feel like I'm underneath my boat when I'm looking. I don't like.
So 30 foot is what you have the range at.
Yeah, and it sets my pole, and I could see my pole out there clearly. I think it puts my bait out there about 13, 14 feet in front of me, and it's just a clearer picture to me. It's a preference thing. It's a preference thing for my eyes.
Right. You're running a 32 or the 34?
I'm still running a 32.
Right. So they really pop.
Yeah.
You got some clutter on your screen, but when a crappie comes,
it looks, it looks like a football.
Right.
I mean, and it just, I just go at them, And
I know here I actually have an example of what one looks like.
Yeah.
And when you see it, it actually looks
looks like
a
that.
football.
Yeah.
This is what you're looking for, and you have 16 rods that you're looking for.
Mm-hmm.
If you lost your football in Beaver Lake, contact me, because the other day while we were fishing, we found this football. But
that's hilarious.
Yeah, that's so I was waiting for someone to come by and ask me what I was catching. I was going to say, I'm catching footballs, baby. We caught some great big spotted bass that day. I mean, these look like they came from Table Rock.
Wow.
So these were in that 17, 18-inch spotted bass. They were big.
Those are good ones for spotted bass.
But do you catch some odd stuff while you're out there?
I'll
16 baits, right?
Yeah,
so you're bound to catch.
I'll catch a white bass.
Catch a lot of white bass.
I'll catch a lot of white bass. I get those in. I get them in as quick as I can. I just try to hoist them over all the poles, swing them over something. It's just, I can kind of tell their bite right away because they usually just will do more like a bounce bite and just pull it down, it's just their bite's different. I'll know right away.
And what's a crappie bite look like?
It's more, they'll pull it down, run with it. They'll do it, they'll do it that way. They'll lift up on the rod tip too. But it's just, they're more of a slow
crappie
pull. Yeah. And just bite them and just set the hook that way. And then they don't really like run off. Like, I'll know right away when it's a white bass because it's like your pole's just getting pulled.
Right.
But what's crazy for live scope is gar.
Right.
Gar would bite just like crappie to me sometimes because it would just be like a slow pull. I'd set the hook and then that pole would be just like, that's the wrong flavor.
There would be a slow bite too, though. I mean, that is how gar bites.
Yeah, it's just weird. I mean, they'll slam the pole down. I mean, the crappie, like last week, we had a few that were just pulling the 4 outlets deep, you know.
Wow.
But I mean, most time it's just this time of year, it's more of a slow, subtle bite.
Right.
You know, but you know right away when it's a white bass because they just kind of gnaw on it and jerk their heads.
Right.
But when striper always tend to run.
Right.
When you set the hook, they always tend to run away. So I'll get them over my poles and get them out the side of the boat and get them in, you know, or hopefully they'll straighten.
And you don't have no room in your cooler probably by the time you catch a striper.
No,
I'll put them
you
in
know,
there, don't
what
you?
I usually do is I tie them on the stringer. And I just drag them out the back of the boat.
Yeah.
I've done that. I've had like 3 striper on there and some white bass, and I don't like to keep them, but there might be some guy that's coming through that might not be having a successful trip, and I'll holler at him. I'm like, hey, I got some white bass and striper. You want them? They're like, yeah. So I just give them that, and they said, man, you made our day. So
there's always someone.
Yeah, there's always somebody, you know, and I mean, they'll just be on the back of the boat tied to the stringer.
Oh, there you go.
See, I'm telling you, just everybody's going by.
Yeah, this is Beaver Lake's right in the background, and so we're up in the river arms where I would say the biggest population of crappie are up here.
They're starting to move in.
Yeah, they're starting to move in, and Peyton talked last week about or time before talked about the migration of the crappie moving. Probably unmolested fish up there farther, so at least you haven't been.
I haven't.
You haven't been chasing them.
I ain't chasing them. So
I got to ask: Do you have a B&M like a double diamond or anything like that?
One.
Do you have one?
I have the diamond.
Cast?
I have the diamond. I have the. I don't have the 75th. I have the blue.
The blue one for one poling?
For one poling. And
you have a 12-foot or 14?
I have the 14-foot. It's a great pole. I like the pole. It's the line just moves right. It's still smooth going through the line, going through. When I go fish with Greg and Peyton, well, that's what we majority do.
Right.
It's just my boat, my trolling motor. I just not outfit. It's a Tarova trolling motor, and I just. You know, the foot control is not the best, and it's just using the hand. I got to have all my hands. And
there you go.
I just stick to minnow rigging, and
when you're guiding, you just minnow rig.
Yeah,
so a person really doesn't have to cast.
No,
you just have to be attentive.
Yeah, they'll feel it. They'll have to watch it with their eyes. You know,
right?
So
there you go, deer running through the yard. Look at that,
look at that.
Them. So this is
crazy.
This is a wildlife show. Here. You see footballs and deer. That's you know you're in the right spot.
Yeah.
That takes us to Tackle Time. Tackle Time is sponsored by PICO Lures, and PICO Lures, they have a complete line of hard and soft tackle. They got jig heads. These are Malibu jig heads, and you fished with these a little bit.
Yeah, I've used those. I like the pink and white one.
Pink and white one.
I've caught some good fish on that one.
Yep.
You know,
and they got Vanguard, the whole Vanguard line of terminal tackle and fishing line. You can check that out. You can check that out online if you want to at PicoLures.com. If they want to find out more about your guide service and where they can go to get connected to hook up with the trick, where would they go?
There's so many. I mean, you can go to Instagram, Lance Hughey 34. You can do Facebook Lance Hughey or Lance Hughey Crappie Guide Service. Or even lhcrappieguide.com.
All right.
I think I got them all. So there's so many ways. You can just reach out to me by my phone number. It's on my page there too. So, I mean, that's the best way. Just call me or Facebook message me. You know.
All right. There you go. Simple and easy enough. We'll have you back on. We'll have you talk a little later on about when the fish are starting to move towards that main lake or what you're doing when those crappies start spawning. And you can kind of cue people in on because what's happening here is either happening already down where you are if you're farther south, or it's going to happen farther up north in Table Rock and then up the Lake of the Ozarks and Stockton and those lakes. So you'll be able to apply that to your fishing there. So it's good stuff. Like I always like to end the show, make sure you keep your hook sharp and your lures in the water.
Yeah.
Wow. Blow us out.
Huh?
Blow us out.